Okay, so we're gonna do the cranial cavity of this guy right here. We'll start with structure number 1, which is labeled right there. Kind of hard to see because of the glare. So that is actually just indicating a cerebral hemisphere, and because of the orientation of the brain and the brain stem, we can tell that this is a left cerebral hemisphere. Number 2 is going to be seen in the cavity, and that is the internal carotid artery making its appearance. 3 is not labeled on this right here, but it's the cerebellum. It's labeled on the removable portion. 4 is for the brainstem, so you can see that right here, the pons, etc., etc. 5 is the falx cerebri. Oh, I hate that word. So that's this structure right there. Number 6 is the superior sagittal sinus, and since we're doing the superior sagittal sinus, we'll just go ahead and do the inferior right there, number 10. We also have the straight sinus, number 7, which this is the straight sinus. 8 is supposed to be showing us the corpus callosum. If I could get this to focus, sorry guys. So 8 is corpus callosum, 9 is going to be the fornix, 10 we already hit on, that's the inferior sagittal sinus, and then 11, which we can see right there, is showing us the thalamus. You can also see like the hypothalamus that would follow down the infundibulum to the pineal gland, or the pituitary gland rather, whoops. And then you can also see some of the ventricles. So you can see the cerebral aqueduct coming into the 4th ventricle right there. And yeah. Okay, so for this guy, we're gonna look at the spinal cord and all of the associated structures that we should know. So number one right up here, but it's really for everything, just showing the spinal cord in general. Number 2, we've got our spinal roots. So the lab manual said that it was our anterior and posterior roots of the spinal cord. Number 3, right here, we have our spinal ganglia. Then 4, we have the actual spinal nerve. 5 is the conus medullaris. So you can see that coming down here. So we're ending the spinal cord proper, and then we just have our cauda equina coming down. So you can see all of those little root branches. Number 7, our most inferior portion is going to connect to the coccyx, and that is our phylum terminale, or filum terminale, however you want to say it. Number 8 is supposed to be showing us our dura mater. You can see how tough and fibrous and inelastic it looks. Number 9, right here, it's just like slightly shiny. I don't know if you can really see that. So I think that's supposed to be showing us the shiny arachnoid mater. And then 10 is our pia mater, or our innermost layer of the meninges. 11, did I lose that? No, there it is. Okay, so 11 is our vertebral arteries. Then we get, so you can see one there, headed up towards the basilar. Then we can move on to 12, which is going to be our intervertebral disc right there. And the innermost portion is the nucleus pulposus. That was number 13. 14 is the internal vertebral venous plexus, and that's indicated right here. So internal vertebral venous plexus. And then finally, we have a thoracic vertebrae right here that we could take out. Somebody in class said it looks like a giraffe, and I will never not see that ever again. But yeah, so this is our really most standard thoracic vertebrae. This is vertebrae number 8. And there we go. Yeah, I think that's it. So for this, we'll just quickly go over some pretty basic structures that maybe he'll choose as questions on the test. You know, obviously we have our clavicles coming into the manubrium. We have the body of the sternum and then the xiphoid process. We have the sternal angle right here with rib 2 coming in connecting. We have our true ribs 1 through 7. Here's 7. That's 7. Let me count that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there we go. That's the end of our true ribs, having their direct connections to the sternum. And then 8, 9, and 10 have to piggyback off of 7. And then 11 right here is a floating, and we don't get to see 12. Got the stomach. J is just indicating the entire stomach. 1 is our cardial part. 2 is for the pyloric sphincter area, or the pylorus. We have pyloric antrum right over here. We have body of the stomach with the lesser curvature that's going to have that lesser omentum going up. And then we have the greater curvature with the greater omentum that's coming down. Oh, the fundus is right up here, just the top of the stomach. And then internally, I don't know if I can actually open this right now, but internally you'd see all the rugae, or the gastric folds. So I'm going to go over this in another video of the digestive model in particular, but I did want to show some stuff here just because it's nice and detailed. So obviously we have our small intestine right here. I'm going to take that out. If we're pointing, according to the lab guide, if we're pointing up here, this is going to be our jejunum. And then if we're pointing somewhere down here, this is the ileum. So more proximal, more distal. On the posterior aspect, you can just see more, you can see some mesentery, sort of thing. So let me take this off for a second. I like this model because it shows so many different components of, like, structurally how we find things and identify them. So if we're following our pancreas down into the second portion of the duodenum, you know, obviously we have our first, second, third, and fourth is coming up here. You can see where it dumps in into the second portion. You can see with the mesentery here, our superior mesenteric artery and vein, and all of its branching patterns that are then going to go to that the artery of Drummond that goes all the way around. So you can see all those branching patterns, and then over here we have the continuation of that artery of Drummond that's coming back to our inferior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric vein. I also like that on this one, you can see the appendix being retrocecal. So here, again, we have our spleen, we have kidneys. I've taken off part of this kidney. You can see the cortex in the outermost region, and then the medulla innermost. You can see the pyramids, or the renal pyramids. The renal pelvis would be more down here. We'd have our minor calyces flowing into our major calyces, down into the renal pelvis, down into the ureter. The ureter is going to take us down to the bladder. Let's see. Oh, we have our adrenal glands right up here sitting on top. Then obviously we have our abdominal aorta. You can see our gonadals, our gonadal vein, arteries. You can see also the veins as well, and you can see that left gonadal vein coming back up to the renal vein right over here, the left renal vein. So inferior vena cava, let's see what else. You'd probably want to just pause on this picture for a second and look at some of the muscles. You can see like iliopsoas. You can look at the branches off of the abdominal aorta, so the celiac, superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric. So celiac, superior, inferior, and just kind of review those branching patterns. You can look at the bifurcation of these vessels.